All right, y'all. So I've been sitting here as the father of four girls, and I get tired of so many of them, or all of them, not knowing how to cook. This is actually too hot. Pardon my ugly stove. I know I need to replace it. It's been here since I bought this house. It doesn't match the rest of the appliances. Those are stainless. But, it works. And I kind of like these quartz cooktops, to be honest with you. I thought about switching this thing out for gas, but one of my kids is still young and dumb at 9 years old. But let's do some meals that your kids can cook, even a 9-year-old. So I'm gonna use the non-stick skillet for this because again, we want to do stuff that's suitable for younger cooks that might just be starting out. So let's get to it. I'm just gonna create a recipe. I don't have any of this written down, so don't ask me for measurements. And we're gonna try to get through this. I'm gonna make some basically poor man's lasagna. Got my olive oil over here. I always use a little extra virgin olive oil to brown my meat. So, and honestly, if I was cooking this, the first thing I would have done was I would have cooked my noodles. What you'll see is that I'm going to use just regular spaghetti noodles. Again, trying to cook up something that everybody has kind of on hand. And maybe you don't want spaghetti today. You want something a little different. Again, I did heat up my non-stick cookware here. I put my oil in the bottom. I understand it's non-stick. It's not supposed to stick. So why am I using oil? That's what I do. I am not a cook. I am a dad. That's why the channel's called Dad Life with B. So, when you see me off the camera here, just grabbing my ground meat, just using some good old 80-20 ground beef. Let's see. Normally I would like to use one of my nice metal utensils, but let's treat the non-stick skillet like I'm supposed to. Get that in there, get that nice sizzle going. And I'm not one of those people that's gonna sit there and let it brown on one side before. No, I'm not doing all that. I like my meat properly chopped up, so I start chopping it while it's cooking. I'm not gonna wait for it to brown on one side. I understand. I am releasing more moisture than is probably necessary. And I do like to have my meat before I cook. What I do as a dad is normally with this ground meat, I'll order it in larger kind of bulk quantities. And I'll package it. All four girls are at the house right now. So I'm basically cooking for 5 people. There's their mom. Is a non-meat eater. So we're going to cook this up for at least 5 people. And sometimes they don't like spaghetti. That's all right. We're trying to design a recipe that everybody likes. I'm going to try to show you how I get that done. So I started chopping my ground beef up in my pan stop sizzling. And I'm actually going to season this ground beef, even though this is going to be the first round of seasoning. I'm looking in my cabinet for my Italian seasoning, which, interestingly enough, I might not have. Also, with something like this, I will throw some minced onion, that dry minced onion in there. Give it a little additional flavor. Let's see. We're doing this in real time here. So I'm looking for the Italian seasoning, which I might not have any, which would be weird. We go through that quite often. I use Italian seasoning in everything. Even if I'm just marinating my chicken breast, when I get my chicken breast from the store, again, I buy everything in bulk quantities. I separate it, and then I'll stick it in Ziploc freezer bags in the portions I need for meals. And usually when I stick it in those portions that I need for meals, I am going to marinate. Most of my chicken marinades are just Italian dressing. The ones for beef, I usually do something simple. I got a few beef rubs in here. Most of the beef rubs are just paprika, salt, and pepper. You get a little dark chili pepper in there. What else we got in those? That's really about it. I try not to do anything too drastic because I don't really know how I'm gonna use the beef. So most of those beef seasonings that I'm gonna package it with is just to give it a little extra flavor once I start cooking it. Something like a steak, I won't season that at all if I have to freeze the steak. But then you gotta be careful when you're doing that. So let me go into all my old spices here. Some of these I probably need to get rid of. Some of these things I buy over and over again because I'll get to the store and not know what's up here. Let me show you my spice cabinet. Movie up here. See if I can get this thing to turn around so I can show you what I got in here. Like I said, I'm just looking for Italian seasoning. Not when you have multiple people in the house, it's hard to keep these things organized. Usually this shelf here would be for all my mixed seasonings. Like you see, I got that Montreal steak seasoning back here. Baking soda is supposed to be up on this with the bacon goods, but I do not see the Italian seasoning. Oh well. So, I guess we'll figure something else out since I can't find it. But I'll be back as soon as I get this all chopped up and nice and brown. Alright, let's get back to it. So, the meat's browning up nicely. So one of my first jobs was working for Wendy's. Let's give a little trade secret away. Wendy's does not like serving overcooked burgers. What they do with those overcooked burgers, when they cook them throughout the day, because when you get in a rush, you got to throw a bunch of burger patties on without knowing how many you're going to cook. So you throw all those burger patties on there, get them cooking, and hoping you're going to sell them all during the rush so people don't have to wait. Well, what happens is that if you don't sell them, you throw those cooked burger patties into a warmer. It's the same type warmer that they use for the bacon, because the bacon is cooked all at once also, placed in the warmer. That warmer is basically a steam table. It's basically a drawer that has some water in it. You stick those burger patties in the warmer. At the end of the day, you take those burger patties out and you throw them into the freezer. When you get there in the morning as the cook, you grab those burger patties out. I forgot how many you need, because if you don't have enough, you do need to cook some more. And you add that meat to the boiling water that you're going to use for Wendy's chili. Now, basically, this is the process that Wendy's does. So you get those cooked burger patties in there and you sit there and you chop it up just like this. They kind of have a method of turning the pot as you chop it up and get it into really tiny pieces. Now you add some water to those burger patties to get them nice and loosened up. And then once you render all the fat, kind of like this process that you're doing, you're rendering the fat out of here. They'll just add water to it. Now those burgers were cooked on the grill, so most of the fat is out of them. It's not going to be fatty like the meat you get from the store. Again, this is 80-20, so 20% of your meat here was fat. And that's what you'll see in your pan. Some of that you can kind of cook down, but and the more stiff parts won't actually render out of your meat. If you were cooking this meat and you wanted to keep it nice and moist, you really wouldn't cook it this much. So if I were doing taco meat, at this point it would have already been taken off because I don't want to render all my fat out of it till it dries up. That's what dries up your meat. So I'm going to take this off the skillet, and what I do, take it off the heat, and I'm going to grab one of my strainers because I don't like this oil going down into my drain. I'm going to do it the easy way today. I got a multitude of different size plastic containers. Let's grab one of the older ones. Show you a little secret. So grab your old plastic container. Let me get a bigger strainer to make this easier on me. And I'm gonna grab some napkins. And we're doing this so we don't melt the container. So put the napkins in there. This will also make it easier. This is a little secret. So you're gonna strain out your meat again. And since this is actually going into a dish that I'm gonna bake, I'm gonna get all the grease I can out of this meat. Because of course with lasagna you have cheese, so you don't need any extra fat in that dish. This pan here, I actually don't need to use again. Because there's not much else I'm gonna cook. And I'm also missing a few ingredients, I see, but hey, like I said, poor man's lasagna. So, go through here, get that oil out of there, get that grease out of there. And just stick this in here, some more of the grease will pop out. But this here, I'm gonna throw it in the freezer. The reason I throw it in the freezer is it's gonna cool that oil, get it nice and cool. This napkin, I'll just be able to pull right out of there and throw it in the trash can without it going down my drain. So pop that into the freezer. The next thing we're gonna do is going to make our pasta. Now, anytime I make pasta, I always follow the al dente directions on the box. And I'm not going to use filtered water. I'm not doing anything. Again, I have 4 kids. I don't have time to be putting filtered water into my pasta noodles just to get them to boil. I'm sorry, I know. Go ahead and kill me for it. I grew up with regular water. We put regular water in everything from our pasta to our rice to our beans to our jambalaya. I don't want to get none of that filtered water crap. My grandmother is 92 years old. I don't think there's a bottle of filtered water in that house. So get my good pot on there. Turn that up to high. Bring it to a boil. We'll salt that and then add my pasta. All right now, so normally when I package up my ground beef, I take out my rolling pin and I flatten it out a good bit. Normally what I'm doing, this is only 1 pound of beef. Normally what I'll put in here, feet by, I'll have about 2 pounds of ground beef in there. Usually 2 pounds will do good for any dish that I'm making, from hamburgers to spaghetti to tacos. While I am doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my next step. And that's just gonna be trying to prep out a pan. So grab my large baking pan. Kind of wish I had some of those throwaway aluminum pans, you know, the ones they call self-cleaning. Self-cleaning because you just throw them away. I normally have an olive oil spray that I would use. I like using olive oil for everything. I really don't like Pam, but normally I'll use a little olive oil spray in here. But we're just gonna have to deal with it sticking. What I will do will help out just a tad bit. Some butter. I'll get these little mini sticks of butter. I like these better. Cost the same. Then I don't have to pull out a whole stick. Yes, I just rub the olive oil. Rub the butter with the olive oil, but that's alright. Nobody will know this. I'll probably be the only one that even uses this little stick. Because I throw, at one point I was throwing olive oil and butter into my coffee. Get a little benefits to doing that. I try to not put sugar in my coffee. So to give it a little bit more richness with the half and half that I'm using, I'll add in that butter. And that butter will give it a little bit of saltiness and a little bit of sweetness without giving you that extra sugar that you really don't need. And this is going to be a simple dish. I'm not going to sit here and layer multiple different things into my pan here. Once I get my pasta in, I'm just going to throw the pasta in there, layer it with the ground beef, and right on top of that ground beef, I'm going to throw in just a can of Prego spaghetti sauce. Throw a few little extra seasonings in there. I've got some parsley, some oregano. Like I said, I didn't have my Italian seasoning. So I do have parsley, some oregano, some basil. I'm not going to do the minced onion in there. Just trying to think of the flavor notes that I want. Wish I had some real basil leaves to throw in there. Basil leaves will give you a slight sweetness that the dry basil won't. How to do that sage. So we're going to get that into this bacon dish, and I'm just going to pop it in the oven until the cheese that I'm going to put on top browns up. I have a ton of cheese. I'm a cheese lover. I need to probably cut back on the cheese. So, in the comments, once I post this video, if y'all have any suggestions on what type of cheese we could make this dish with, I'd be happy to take a look at it. Look, I'm just making this a quick meal, quick Wednesday meal. People are always talking about the price of groceries. This dish here will probably run you, I would say, less than $20. And you can feed a family of 6 people off of it. Less than $20. Look at all this cheese I have. So I've got Kraft triple cheddar. I got my Kroger's Parmesan, Kroger's mozzarella, some more Kroger's Parmesan. I got a Kroger's Parmesan. You swear I was Italian. I got some Kraft Kobe Jack. Got some more Kroger's cheddar jack. Yes, here. When you're making those quesadillas, this is the one. Queso Oaxaca. You know, Hispanics help me out here, but this stuff here, when I tell you get a nice cheese pull from this stuff here, that's some good stuff. But I think what I'm gonna throw in here is probably the mozzarella with Parmesan, of course. I'm gonna do this Jack cheddar. So I'm gonna throw the Jack cheddar on top, put the mozzarella on the inside, and then the Parmesan shredded on top of that Jack cheddar. Go check my water, see if it's boiling. Look at this. Look what I found. So I'm up here looking for salt. And in my cabinet, there's my Italian seasoning. So I am gonna still throw this on the ground beef. Throw this Italian season on everything, unfortunately. Why? I don't know. What's the ingredients? So we got marjoram, basil, rosemary, thyme, oregano, savory, and sage. So those are your ingredients of the Italian seasoning. Which one of these don't I currently have? I know I'm out of rosemary. I use that on a lot of dishes, a lot of Cajun dishes. You'll put rosemary, thyme and dill. So I always run out of rosemary. Marjoram, I usually don't carry that. And savory. Yeah, that's not going to be something that's on my shelf. You can look in here and you can probably tell what's in here. A lot of this is oregano. A good bit is oregano and sage. So, but I'll just go with what I got. Now, for my salt. I'm about to salt my water because my water is just about at a boil. Like I said, I love that quartz cooktop just because it gets stuff up to temperature so quick. I usually have the coarse kosher salt. I use this in a lot of my brines. So if I'm smoking a chicken or smoking a turkey or frying a chicken, frying a turkey, I'm usually brining it with this. So this is really the only salt I have. My other salt is the Himalayan pink salt, and I don't like cooking cooking pasta or rice with this because you'll notice that pink color. It'll kind of give your dish a weird color. So that extra mineral in there might color it to where you'll look at it kind of funny. So I don't use the Himalayan salt in that. But we are going to use this kosher salt. The kosher salt will be fine. And again, not something I measure out. Go over here. Look at this. Nice rolling bar. I love these pots. I got these pots from my mom a while back. These were a set of Emerald Lagasse pots and pans she had me. When I tell you these things are super sturdy. So not all of those pots that you see on TV are bad. These here are some good pots. These things have to be, at this point, about 14 years old. So I salted my water. That was probably too much salt. Grab my pasta. See which kind of pastas I got. I got thin spaghetti and I got angel here. I'm going to use the thin spaghetti in here, and I'm just going to use one pack of thin spaghetti. Hopefully that's enough. Y'all know how old the kids are. They might not eat anyway once they get off work. Both of them are at work. Craziness. I don't break my noodles. I just throw my noodles in there. I like a good whole noodle myself. I like being able to take my fork and roll in my noodles. Stones and kind of smush this around. You're like, are you going to add some olive oil? Yes, I am going to add some olive oil. I don't care what Gordon Ramsay said about adding the olive oil. I'm going to add it. I don't care. It's my pasta. Just let it boil. It's about 6 minutes we're looking at. So, Alexa, set timer for 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
It's my favorite kitchen timer right there. Good old Alexa. You use her to time everything. You can throw as many timers as you want on Alexa. She'll time it all out for you. Just make sure she hears you. Sometimes, I don't know what's wrong with her ears. She might not hear you. It's all up. Be back in 6 minutes. All right, there's Alexa. Alexa, stop. Means my noodles are done. Now, let me show y'all a quick secret. So, I grabbed these gloves off of Amazon. These Oklahoma Joe's. Oklahoma Joe's gloves come with this little pair of poly cotton gloves for handling hot foods. When I tell you this works so good, you can literally grab that roasting or smoking chicken right off the grill with that glove on. So I use those all the time. I love those things. So I threw a fork in there. So I drained my pasta noodles and I'm gonna kind of use that for hopefully not lose some of my noodles. Am I the only one that has a dirty side and clean side of your? Probably should have put both of those gloves on because the top of this thing is hot. Move my fork over some. I can just press down on there. Drain my noodles. No noodles wash your head. That sucker's hot. But hey, there you go. Drain my noodles without me losing any noodles. Yeah, I got out the glove. That's it. Got my noodles nice and drained. Make sure that's off. Bring my pasta over here. Bring you guys over here. Get my ground beef also. We'll keep that in there. We might use it, we might not. I'll spin you around here. Get that. Get you spent around. Almost dropped it. Almost dropped it. So all this counter space. Let's use some of it. It's the good thing about having actual stone counters. You can drop anything on these suckers. Look, straight from the stove, straight to the counter. Doesn't matter. Get the top off. Get the spoon out of there. Now, I'm thinking about layering some cheese on the bottom just to give it a base. Because I know it'll be easier to cut and get out the pan since I'm using noodles and not your regular lasagna. So that's what I'm going to do. And let's start it off with some Parmesan. Parmesan will probably stick a little bit less. And it's just a little cheese base. Cheese base. Nobody. Got my gloves on. Throw my hand right in my cheese. How ya? What do you mean? You're gonna put your hand in the cheese? Yes, because the cheese is the first thing I've touched outside of these noodles with these gloves. And again, this is my kitchen. I'm not cooking food service. I did food service for a couple of years. Some little noodle balls here. Layer it with some little noodle balls. I should taste one of these noodles to see how much salt I put in here. I'm not worried about it today. Not worried about it today. If I was actually cooking, I would sit here and measure everything out. Make it all look nice and pretty. But we're not doing all that. Got most of the noodles out the pot. Just say I'm gonna come right after my noodles. Throw my meat on. Again, this is supposed to be a dish that's easy. And notice the usage again. I'm going to try to keep this right hand glove clean. I know this isn't perfect technique. We got that in there. This is supposed to be quick. I don't know how long it takes. Looks like we're at about 30 minutes at this point. And I'm actually going to wash my gloved hands. would think it's funny. People at restaurants would be like, oh, they're not washing their hands. They don't have gloves on. I always know this working in food service. The problem with wearing gloves is that people are less likely to wash their hands once they touch a contaminant. What do I mean by contaminant? Contaminant can be any meat product, any dairy product. So those are your biggest contaminants. Of course, you have other things in there. Once you slice up your vegetables and you start leaving those out, those also become contaminants. So, but put my Italian seasoning on there. And I'm gonna go right after Italian seasoning. Let my jar go. No, I didn't cook it. This is supposed to be easy. Something your kids can do. Something your adult children can do. That sauce in there. Alright, threw that one in there. I'm trying to keep my ingredients. Hopefully I don't have too much fat in these cheeses. What will happen is if I put too much in here, you'll have oil everywhere. So you might want to put a pan underneath this once you stick it in the oven to catch any of that oil that might spill out from these cheeses. Nice mozzarella. I know it's Kroger's brand, but hey, it's all right. They buy it from somebody. Another one of those secrets. Most of your big companies, especially Costco, they buy from a lot of the brands you know. So keep thinking that it matters. Sometimes it doesn't. I'm adding this cheese here just for a little color, just because I want to see that yellow color on the top. So I guess this is what, 3-4 cheese lasagna? Because we got mozzarella, we got Kobe, we got Monterey Jack and cheddar. So we got mozzarella, Monterey Jack and cheddar, and Parmesan. So we got a 4 cheese lasagna going on here. 4 cheese beef lasagna. No veggies. Just fat over here. Even out of salad. I mean, man, out of salad. Just kind of useful. But that is it. Get a little pat down. Yeah, this is definitely going to release out of there. Get that little pat down. Throw this in the oven. I'm going to stick it in the oven just like this. Once my cheese melts, I'm ready to go. Now, I know I say once my cheese melts. I'm actually looking for a little brown on top. So, get back once that's done. All right, we're back at it. It's been about 45 minutes with this in the oven. Let's go check it out. What did I do in that 40 minutes? I try to get my kitchen a little bit cleaner. My old school parents know exactly what that means. When they see that dish towel like that, they know what that means. But up in this house, it really don't mean that. It means somebody better do the last few dishes we got and sweep them off these floors. That's what it means in this house. So let's see if we can grab this out the oven. We'll throw on handy dandy oven mitt and see what we got. Look at this. Look at this, y'all. Oh, we don't need more than that one oven mitt. You know what I'm gonna grab? Let's see. Back at the time, I basically sat here, cleaned up everything I used earlier. Turn this oven off. It is summertime. Okay, heating up the house. Another one of them old school things. I'll be heating up my house, leaving that oven open. Grab that out of there. Look at that. Look at that. Now, I'm gonna warn y'all. If your kids make this, they make this, it is gonna be a little dry. Because we didn't take the extra steps of adding, the different cheeses in there, stuff like that, to get it nice and creamy on the inside. Hopefully that pasta sauce kind of does its job, works in there. Like I said, that's about it. Quick and easy, simple. Less than an hour actually. Well, about an hour and 15. total time to make whole man's lasagna. I know y'all want some cut into this, but hold on. Let me grab a spatula. Grab a spatula. Oh, who that is? Who that? Who that spatula? Who that spatula? Who that spatula? Cut into this. We got the cheese. Cheese is gonna go over there. Let's see what we got. We ain't got no who that place. Let's see what we got. I'm not gonna stay together. That's what we got, y'all. Kids love it. Kids love it. I know. Terrible presentation. One-handed though. Holla at your boy. Again, Dad Life with V. Like, subscribe, share. Let's see what it is. Dad of 4 kids, 4 girls at that. Lord help me.